Hi, welcome back to Success Talks, and we are discussing techniques that's going to help you in your career. And again, I have Abbass Zadeh with me.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, good. Again, since last time we've had some ups and ups.
Have you reflected on what I've said?
Definitely done a lot of reflecting, speaking to myself. I use the techniques every single day, to be honest. So yeah, definitely something that the viewers, as they're watching and then as they're listening,
I know,
something for them to use on a daily basis.
I just didn't want to talk about stuff that I've heard from people or has just been written down in book theory. I want it to be realistic, practical advice that people know it's been done for real. And someone like you, even if it hasn't been done, share it with me, or something that you might use, because this is something that I want real for people to use in their daily habits. I help people daily with real issues, and if I'm going to be saying anything or doing anything, it has to be something authentic, so they can actually use, whether it's in their careers, whether it's students looking for careers. So how are they going to evolve? So this is what the whole point is.
I think definitely, even if somebody takes away just one element of something that we've potentially discussed that can potentially help them with their career, help them with their house life, or whatever it is that they're experiencing in life. I think the one thing that a lot of people, and we've seen it a lot more obviously ever since we started doing these shows, one thing that comes up, and I don't want to take over and come off topic, but depression, for example, is one people talk about. And it's because people are too scared to open up and talk to anybody. And again, it's very hard to talk to your best friend, or whether they be male or female, hard to talk to your parents, to your siblings, because they know you as a character and they have that thought about you, and you're scared that they might judge you, or you're scared that they might turn around and make it religious, make it non-religious, tell you to have faith about a certain thing or do something. So it's always good to be able to open up and practically, I mean, I'm not just saying it because I'm promoting you or a life coach, but I've seen a massive difference is I've been speaking to a coach because I'm speaking to somebody that, again, does nothing, as I said in the first show, but just puts it back to me and makes me think about it in a different way. Yeah. So it's good for people to be able to try and use that. And I'm not here saying to everybody, go and get yourself a life coach and do that.
No, you are saying that.
Okay.
I'm joking.
if you do go and do that, amazing.
Yeah.
Because you do certain things. Because again, I'm talking about stuff that I see, for example, from motivational speakers, from influencers, from bloggers. For example, you see certain things where you think, I might try that today. Or I didn't think about it that way. Or I didn't look at it in that way. So people really need to start, because now people are starting talking about depression a lot more. Yes,
it is becoming much more increasing in today's world.
And I believe, and I could be wrong and I could get attacked for this, but I believe people get to that because of all their thought processes, because of how they treat themselves, and because of what they think and the negative thoughts and all of that stuff.
It builds up.
And it builds up and it builds up, and then it gets into depression.
No,
I'm not qualified to say that, but...
No, I get what you're saying, and even with me, even if I'm trained to help people with those sort of states of minds, they do go for serious, deeper therapy, and they can even have medication for it. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't take away all the rest of the help. But when you have something that is positive, and I'm just a catalyst to help people generally to move forward alongside other things. It doesn't mean that if you see a life coach, you cannot even see a counselor at the same time. I have a variety of clients, whether they struggling with relationships, or their professional careers, or even students. And I even go into institutes like schools, and I have given talks, public speaking talks generally, to institutes, helping teachers bringing coaching techniques into education. So all of these things that we're saying, yes, it's a variety of it. Some of it might be useful to some of people that are watching, and others may not be. You take what you can, but you've got to constantly keep trying things. You can never, ever give up. That's my motto. Even if you don't feel like it, you've got to keep at it, because somewhere along the line, you will find that route, or you'll find some sort of answer or direction, because we all just come sometimes. It's not about feeling broken or lost. I just look at it, and I like to describe it as a crossroad. Now, which direction do I take?
Sure.
So for me, I also have studied a lot about language, and the way in which you use language is so important as to the way in which you're feeling. Even though we talk about our thoughts, but when you relay that in a particular way of speaking, that can also change your actions. If you're going to keep talking down at yourself and saying, I'm never going to be good enough, or I'm not that confident, then, you know, that talk, that self-talk, you know, can actually drag you down. When I have clients, I firstly pick up on their language, and I immediately help them change their language, and automatically it changes their way of being.
And on that topic, obviously we've done this quite
Yes,
a lot, because the one thing that you always mentioned to me before was my language, and how I said things. And this is the one thing that I used to say a lot to employees that used to work for me. And there was one chap that used to work for me a lot, and I used to say to him, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Well, I think it goes hand in hand, to be fair. Both of that.
Yeah, I mean, for him, obviously, from a customer service background, he was relaying information to a client, and it was not what he was saying, because he couldn't change. It was how he was saying it. That either rubbed up the customers the wrong way, or it stopped him from generating a sale. Because this, again, it's not what he was saying; it was how he was saying. Obviously, in a theory of life, and whether we're talking about a work, or whether we're talking about depression, or we're talking about just normal day-to-day things, it is obviously what you say and how you say it. But 100%, when we discussed it a lot, it made me stop and think now that I do talk to myself a lot more before I come out and say anything. And I think about it, and I think into perspective, right, okay, is this what I mean? Is it how is it going to come across? If I'm trying to explain somebody to something to somebody, especially if it's about feelings, you need to make sure you word it correctly. Otherwise, people pick up on the smallest thing that you say, and they will run with that.
Of course. And they obviously, as humans, we have this perception map, which we learn in psychology. And it's about us having these filters. And we delete, distort, and generalize information all the time.
Okay.
These are very important facts that we have to understand about each other. And every information that we take is coming from our own experience. And, you know, the map is not the territory, basically. So we all each have our own map of the world. That's how we got to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, that when you learn about these things, you learn about yourself, and you can understand other people even without accepting. But having that empathy or having that understanding makes you a better person in dealing with different situations, even if it's not liked. So anyway, going on to one of the first techniques again for this episode is flexibility. As humans, we get stuck in a particular way, and yes, sometimes when we do things a particular way, it seems to work. And we run with that, which is good, because obviously it's working. But I think when we are able to adapt to change, and we're able to be flexible more, we're able to deal with things a lot much better, especially in careers. Because things, like I said even before, we have a blueprint and we expect it to happen. But when we're flexible in our mind and we're able to change and adapt, then whatever is thrown at us, as we know, life is full of challenges and tests, especially in business. We are flexible, knowing that even if we don't have a plan, but we are ready for it in our minds to say that we can overcome this and we will find a solution and a way. Then that whole process of you going through anything in life becomes a lot more easier just by you being able to be flexible. What is your thoughts on that? How flexible are you? Not physically.
No, physically not very flexible.
I mean, are you stuck in your ways? Do you feel that you've always been stuck in your ways?
To a certain extent, yeah. To a certain extent, yeah. And a lot of my family members will probably tell you that I'm very stuck in my ways and how do I do things.
What particular ways are you talking about?
But I think...
Come on, we're going to be truthful. This is an honest show here.
In what ways am I stuck in my ways? I think in certain thought processes about how I want to live my life.
Okay.
And about how I want to do certain things.
How is that an issue? I mean, is that something because you're in contradiction to other people's way of living?
I think it's more because it is in contradiction, and it's not their thought process. It's not in their way of thinking of life.
Yeah.
And if I was to do it in a certain way, they'd be like, hold on a minute, why? This is not how we are. But to me, it's not how we are. Like, everybody is individual, everybody's different. You've got to be able to...
There's a belief system there, is that what you're saying?
There is a belief system there, absolutely. But I think this is the one thing that we spoke about a few times as well, is that you kind of need to be a chameleon. You need to adapt.
Yes, and I think also looking at things from a different perspective. That's what I mean about flexibility as well.
So yeah, 100% you need to look at things from a different perspective, because if you're trying to explain something to somebody, or if you're trying to sell something to somebody, or if you're just trying to have a discussion with someone, it's great you saying one thing, but that person needs to see it from your point of view. Or if somebody else is trying to tell you something, you need to be able to see it from their point of view also as well. And to the point that I was making about being a chameleon is where you need to be flexible. Sometimes you need to adapt to the environment that you're in.
Yeah, the
people that you're around. If my friends are probably watching this, they probably laugh and go, how the hell is he so serious, these 3 shows? This guy's an absolute clown.
Yeah.
But in a business state of mind, I'm very, very serious.
Of course.
You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to be flexible.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong in having different faces for different places.
100%. And a lot of people say, well, if you act a certain way in front of us and you act a certain way in front of them and a certain way in front of them people, you're just a fake person.
No.
You're not.
No.
You're adapting to different things. I'm not going to walk into a boardroom and try and sell my business to somebody and have the same jokes that I do with all my mates when I'm sat in a shisha shop smoking a shisha or we're having a laugh or we're at a bar having a drink or whatever.
There's nothing wrong in having different personalities and using that with different people to show that you are varied. In fact, it makes more fun. It makes the person a lot more fun to be around, to know that you've got the ability and you can own it and share it.
100%.
And I think it's actually really healthy, but it's not fake. I mean, I think we use the fake very, very vaguely. And I think fake is you not conforming and sort of like representing who you are in your beliefs and values. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But if you want to act differently in certain situations and be different and show different sides of you, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. It brings excitement. It actually brings, you know, if you have a friend, for example, and for them to see you in a particular different views and ways, it actually excites them to want to be with somebody like you.
100%.
Continue
when you
in
go
that way.
certain places with different types of people, you act in a different way. Someone goes, I've never seen that side of you. I've never seen you so chilled.
Exactly.
I've had people where they've come into me where I've gone to do certain businesses. They're like, we've never known you to be so serious. You're always a clown. Or when you're out with someone and you've consistently been working with them, and then you go after work for a meal, or you're going to go have a drink and you're going to go talk, you're going to go celebrate an achievement, you're going to do something. They're like, I never realized how chilled you were. I've just seen you always so like work, intense. So of course you're going to act in a different way, and it's not being fake.
Yes.
It's about being flexible.
So be flexible.
100%.
That's really good.
100%.
And now I want to go on to something where I'm going to read a little bit because I want to make sure that people understand. It's the 4-bucket wealth. Have you heard anything of that before?
No.
It's basically, this is more like a technical thing as to how, if you are going to be like this technique for being successful is really checking your finances. And not everyone has that ability because we don't have a set wage. And if we do, we don't actually have the flexibility or, you know, the extra amount of money to put away. But this is something to think about if you're planning and if you have a wage. So one of it is check your current account, your bills, whatever it may be, your salary, your savings, you know, at least try and save from that, however little it can be. It makes it so vital for you to sort of reinvest in yourself from your own savings. Because people save and then they'll use a bulk and they don't know where it's gone. So this technique of, you know, trying to, first of all, be the first one, the 4-bucket. The first one is obviously checking your bills and knowing how much exactly you need. Because a lot of us don't know. We think we know, but we're not actually in the know as how much we're spending and how much we're earning, and that's why we're in debt so much.
Guilty.
Because we're obviously doing more. We're spending. Yeah,
I am one person that's guilty. I don't
and the
do
salary.
That.
So create a savings from the salary. Even if you put away a few pounds a week, you have no idea how the weeks and the months carry on, and it will actually, you know, create something. And when you use that savings from your earnings to reinvest within it's your business or whatever it may be. So that's the third one. And then to dream about cash, living in cash instead of credit. I know in business it's very difficult, right? But at the same time, you got to dream it and you got to aspire to it because it is much more healthy. And I think, I don't know if you agree, but never put all your eggs in one basket. I know you being a business owner, you have one business. But when I say that, you have to sort of, maybe your next steps, I would say, is to create income from other sources.
Yes.
Because when you put all your eggs in one basket, it's a very big risk. And yes, it's working out well. But then now that you're in this situation, to look outside the business, to look something for maybe, you know, another sort of like earner, where you're not giving as much time or effort, but it actually still brings in something for you, wherever it may come from. So what is your thoughts on that when it comes to savings and cash and finance and money?
I mean, from a personal point of view, before I obviously started my own company, it was something that I tried to do a lot and I looked at a lot. And whether that would be saving money and investing it in a property, or saving money and investing it, it's hard to say, in a car, because they just depreciate a lot.
But that can earn you money too.
But that can also earn you money depending on what it is.
How you doing?
But 100%, it's something that I used to do a lot. From when I was working and earning a salary, I used to be able to put bit by bit to one side. And it was funny, because I used to think, well, what's this 200 quid going to do?
Yeah.
But then as the times flew by, and then 200s turned into 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and
you look back,
continue growing, you look back, you think, I'm glad that I did that. From a business point of view, obviously, it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
Because, I mean,
nothing's impossible.
Nothing's impossible. But for me personally, because my business is so relatively new, for me, literally every penny that the company makes, I'm reinvesting back into that company, whether that be through marketing, whether that be into
so you are doing
more assets or more products onto the fleet, website design change, filming, promo videos, or anything like that. It's always about reinvesting, because the business is still that new. I know a lot of people that potentially have started a business, they have made quite a substantial amount of money, but they've stopped re-putting it back into the business.
They don't reinvest.
And the business has stopped, and it stood still. It's continued generating, but it stood still. It hasn't continued to move forward and forward and
That's
forward.
a very important point that you just made about reinvesting. And it's not just about business, it's reinvesting in yourself as well. Even as we're growing as humans, we need to constantly, it doesn't mean that you've done your degree or master's, people stop. You've got to continuously learn. Even, it doesn't mean in an academic way. Personal development for me is a continuous thing. From, I think when we say about having all this knowledge and creating more knowledge and needing more knowledge, it doesn't come just from the academic way. In fact, for me, it's more about personal development, because we need to learn how to grow as individuals and change with our environments. And you can still have your belief systems in place, but you sort of conform to this day and age, and you have to make it work in that sense. So for me, I find that, to reinvest is so important in yourself.
100%, honestly.
And rename it.
We were talking about right now about the financial element side of it, but take the financial element side of it away, you have to reinvest in yourself.
You have to constantly grow.
And how do you reinvest in yourself? For example, if we look at the example, if you one person that continuously working, and to reinvest in yourself and your body is to be able to give yourself that freedom to be able to relax. You're taking a holiday. That's reinvesting in yourself.
Yes,
that's giving yourself the quality time to relax, to unwind down from what you've had, what you've experienced in the last couple of months. So to reinvest in yourself from that aspect, 100% is very, very important. Because if you don't reinvest in yourself, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to be able to continue to grow.
A lot of people also take growth and change as something that, it scares them. It's really scary, and they think it's not real because they're not being themselves. But actually, just having new information, brings out a different kind of person that maybe you haven't seen. Like, I always describe this about Plato's cave, and he's a philosopher that's sort of talked about these men that were in a cave for many years in darkness, and only one decided just, to come out and see, oh wow, there's a world out there. And he went back to tell everyone. No one, believed him and understood. But he took himself out of a situation. So you always know what you know. But there's also a part of us that, we know what we don't know. And then there's a blind spot completely that we have no clue about. But until we actually put ourselves outside our comfort zones, we'll never get to that stage.
100%. I mean, regardless of what situation you are in life and where you are in life, you've got to, as they say, dip your toe into the water and experience something. So you've got to take yourself out of your comfort zone. Unless you take yourself out of your comfort zone, how will you excel? Or how will you learn new things? Or how will you see things from a different point of view? People like that, I mean, I always relate everything back to a car industry. It's literally like driving without wing mirrors. You only see straight ahead.
Absolutely.
You don't see what's on your side.
That's a very good analogy.
And if you took your rear view mirror where you don't see what's behind you, you're literally only just looking ahead.
It is exactly that vision.
If you have that, you have a wider vision. You can see behind you, you can see your sides, you can see what you're doing. And it makes life a lot easier. And that terminology is just amazing, because if you get in your car right now and I took your wing mirrors off and your rear view mirror, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And that's the same as life.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to look
I'm going to use that analogy myself now.
Okay, if you don't look at things from a different perspective or from a different
Yeah.
angle, if you're not willing to come out your comfort zone, because
Yeah.
your comfort zone is your seat and just staring forward.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to come out of your comfort zone and look at things from a different angle, different perspective, and different way, you're not going to move forward. You're going to continue in that same stance.
And that's the thing, a lot of people, they are living mediocre lives, not because, like, you know how you said before in the previous episodes about living in a mediocre life and why people don't change and why don't they do that. It's because people are quite comfortable and they don't have that sense of urgency. And the only time people have that sense of urgency is when, oh my gosh, there's like a failure in their health, or there's something that's really gone wrong in their relationship, or something that's gone bad in their career path. So you don't wait for those times. And a lot of us do, and that's only when we switch it up, and that's when it's even harder to change. So you've got to go out there looking for things to make yourself ready, so that even when that comes, you're okay, because you're on the, you know, that wheel.
I totally get that, and that's a very good point, because you can use that with various different elements. Obviously, nobody really goes to the doctor unless they're unwell.
Yeah.
However, if we use the analogy of a dentist, you go for your checkup every 3-6 months or whatever it might be, just to make sure that everything's fine, nothing is going wrong. And that's what you need to do in life also as well. You need to make sure you're staying in touch and you're staying intact. It's like that. Unless somebody becomes unhealthy or gets this bad illness, they don't make change. Whether it's because they are putting too much weight because they're eating too much junk, or whether it is because their sugar levels are going up because of what they're eating, or
there's no urgency.
There is no urgency in any change whatsoever.
You have to create that urgency. And a lot of us, even when then we're faced with a challenge and we're like, question why? And then we still don't look at ourselves. It all comes from us. As a coach, when I come to, dealing with my clients, I work very, very deeply with them about analyzing themselves. And whatever situation they come to me with, whatever issues they come to me with, that's secondary. It really is. It's all about you trying to figure out who you are first, who you were, where you are right now, where you want to be, and how real is that as well as to who you're saying you are. We always have a vision of, we have a prediction as to when we talk, this is who we are, this is what we want. But is that your predicted self? Is that your real self? Or is that your ideal self? You know, there's all these things. How are we? So we need to know that. And that comes on to my next technique, which is like to rename yourself. So I am something, I feel, you know, you got to know your emotions, you got to know your habits. You know, this technique is called the rename. So who you are right now, you sometimes got to rename that. You know, I am this, but actually, no, I am that as well, or I want to be something else. And you got to take into consideration, you know, are you feeling a particular way because of certain things that have happened to you, and how does it serve you, and how does it serve others? Because we also become into this world where it's very self-centered, and to a certain extent we have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of others, but you have to do it taking care of yourself, knowing that at the back of your mind you're going to serve others. When you have that meaning and purpose in life, then whatever you're doing becomes a lot more passionate. And it doesn't matter even if you haven't got that dream job and that career, but living life with meaning and purpose to serve others, then that becomes a whole new level of living. And I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think if there is one good example or a best example that I can think of something like that, is a mother.
Of course, yes.
Is a mother's sole, not job, but a mother lives for the purpose for being able to please other people, whether that be the partner, whether that be the children.
Yes.
And a mother really grows that child and teaches that child and nourishes that child up to a certain age, where then the child then has its own thoughts and has its own process. Absolutely. And then do that. But
we've got to give credit to parents in general, because I know fathers play a role in many ways that even they don't give credit for. And obviously you being a father can, you know, probably back me up, because most women even won't say this. But, you know, fathers play such an, you know, important role that they don't have to be doing the role that the mother does, because that's, I would say, it's a natural thing. But with the father, you know, he might be out, but the worry and the concern is there just as much and bad. And even if they're not there physically with the child, you know, for example, because maybe they're the ones that are out, you know, bringing the bread.
100%, because there's a few things that you say on there, because I was reading a book, and there was things on there to say that the mother is the one that brings the child into the world, but the father is the one that introduces the world to the child.
Yeah, I read that. I remember that.
The mother's the one that makes sure that you're not hurt when you fall. The father's the one that teaches you how to get up yourself after you fall. So obviously it works in two ways. Parents have their own role to play in that. But 100%, I think you need to be able to give back, whether you're giving back to your community, whether you're giving back to friends, whether you're giving back to employers or employees. You've got to be able to have that sense to be able to give back. Obviously, as a businessman, my first thought process would be about my family and make sure my family is okay and make sure that I can look after them, as well as my business still running. But I've got elements of people, for example, that work for me that if I don't make sure that they're okay, my business is not going to be okay. If I'm not okay, the business is not going to be okay. So you have to be able to give back. And again, looking at it from a community point of view, that if you're doing something in a certain area, or you're using something within that community, you give back, whether you give it back to schools.
Well, what we're doing right now, to be fair, like we are sharing this information. A lot of people actually, when they're in business, they don't even want to share what they know because they're scared of competition or someone's going to do it better. Now, I have done many shows and I've even given talks, and I'm like, take my work if you really want it, because I know, that's how I live. And people don't want to share, and we're here sharing. We're here giving back. We want more people to be successful. We want more people to share success. And even though we're still on a journey ourselves, but we can see the difference it's made in our lives, and we want to bring that forward to everybody else.
100%, and I get the same thing, and I bring it back to business, is that people always, they message me, for example, and they say, well, how would I do this? How would I go ahead and do that? How would I do this? And I give them that information, and they were like, oh, but you're telling us what you do, yeah. Are you not worried that we would be your competitor? If I'm completely honest and being big-headed, no. No. My business is in a different league. So do I think you're going to be able to compete with me? You might be able to compete. Can you deliver what I deliver? No.
Exactly.
It's exactly like if we use the analogy of if you were sat in a classroom and one student is not listening to a single word, and they write down word for word what the person next to them has wrote, and the teacher goes, well, explain your theory. He'll go,
yeah, exactly.
Clueless. You've got the answer. How you got to that answer, you don't know. So it's being able to get to that answer, to be able to go, you know what, I can deliver this, or I can do this.
But we're all going to do it differently as well. Your power is you because you are you.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. Exactly. And so I have no fear of sharing my work and giving my information, and even this was shared to me. And, I want to share it with everyone. So hopefully we're going to do this in the next episode and continue, because we've come to the end again, which was an amazing, amazing time to talk about all these thoughts, because it just rolls off to so many different ideas which I didn't even think that would come across. Yeah. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we will be back next time with more success techniques. Thank you very much. Goodbye.